So all right, howdy out there. This is Beck Barnes and Jim Steadman of Cotton Grower Magazine coming at you with the award-winning Cotton Companion podcast here this, what feels like the 8th week of August, or the 7th week of August. Here it's the 2nd week of September, but man, it is hot and dry out there. So whether you are listening to us in the Centennial Wash out there in Maricopa County or from the banks of Lake Blackshear in South Georgia, we are deeply appreciative that you're with us. I'm joined today, as always, by my partner in crime, Mr. Jim Steadman. Howdy, Jim.
Hello, Beck, and trust me, I think I'd much rather be sitting on the banks of Lake Blackshear right now than struggling with things out in Maricopa County. No offense, California.
Yeah, right. Well, I mean, my gosh, if it's still there, I mean, if it's not dried up, because, boy, it has been dry here in Memphis, we can say. All my pots and potted stuff are starting to look, dried to a crisp. So we hope y'all are doing better out there. Maybe y'all like it like that out there if you're in the Mid-South at this point. But anyhow, we are in the studio today ahead of a week of busy travel. Next week, both of us will be visiting the Lone Star State to check out crop conditions out there, although we will be in different corners of Texas. We're happy to be here in the Mid-South and therefore coming to you right now. So we got a great companion episode loaded up for y'all today, but the first thing we want to do is bring you a brief message from our sponsors at Enlist.
This episode of Cotton Companion is brought to you by the Enlist Weed Control System. Ready to help you control tough weeds with 2,4-D choline featuring inherent low volatility.
So all right, that was a great and timely Enlist ad because at this moment we want to bring you a brief custom content segment featuring our own Robin Sichtberg, who y'all have come to know, no doubt. And she recently had the chance to sit down and speak with Haley Neighbors. She is an Enlist technology specialist. So we want to bring you that custom interview right now.
Hello, I'm Robin Sichtberg, custom content editor for Meister Media Worldwide, publisher of Cotton Grower Magazine. Joining me today is Haley Neighbors, Enlist Field Specialist. Welcome to the program, Haley.
Thanks, Robin.
You work specifically with the Enlist weed control system. And what type of weed control performance have you seen from the Enlist herbicides this season?
Overall, I would say weed control with the Enlist herbicides has looked really good. This was a challenging year due to the weather and the rain we faced early on. But overall, those with the best weed control results were able to, follow the start clean, stay clean type mantra that we talk about using a good burn down. They were able to incorporate residual herbicides that really allowed for more timely applications of their post applications of Enlist herbicides. So whenever we take a look at those post applications, I would say growers were especially impressed with the applications of Enlist 1, where they were able to tank mix with glufosinate, where we have these two effective modes of action going out there after those weeds. We've been able to do a really good job cleaning up some fields.
Good. What are the key drivers of more growers using the Enlist system in cotton?
Two of the key drivers that really are shifting growers into adopting the Enlist system in cotton is in my mind going to be weed control and germplasm. The Enlist weed control system in phytogen cotton is going to provide really, really good weed control on some of those troublesome weeds, palmer, mare's tail, water hemp. And is going to be available in the most elite genetics from phytogen. So overall performance from the herbicide as well as the germplasm has been really strong.
That's great to hear because, as we all know, those weeds are pretty challenging and, to find something that is effective really benefits farmers. Where can farmers get more information on the Enlist cotton and the Enlist E3 soybeans and the Enlist weed control system?
I know there are probably a lot of questions about Enlist cotton and now Enlist E3 soybeans that we have full commercialization there, as well as maybe the herbicide program in general. So I would certainly encourage them to reach out to their local crop protection and seed territory managers. And they also have the ability to visit www.enlist.com for additional information.
Good. Well, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it. We've got to wrap up soon. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me on.
Okay, a big thank you to Robin and to Haley Neighbors of Enlist for that. And now we want to get the ball rolling on this here, our 55th companion episode, and boy, it's a good one. Jim, as always, is going to lead us in our news segment of the day. We're talking, among other things, crop progress here at the heading into the home stretch of the season, and we're talking defoliation scheduling accordingly, and much more. After that, we're going to bring you an interview Jim recently conducted with a great friend of the podcast, Mr. Tyson Raper. He is the extension cotton specialist for this great state of Tennessee, and he's talking, I believe, among other things, cover crop timing this fall. We'll get into a summary of that a little later, but as you could tell, a great episode lined up. So without further ado, I'm going to get out of the way and turn it over to my man Jim here, who will lead us in a little more focused discussion of the news items of the day. Go for it, Jim.
Okay, thank you, Beck. We're going to take a quick look at crop progress, particularly in a week following Hurricane Dorian's movement up the eastern seaboard. Early reports that we've been seeing and getting indicate that the vast majority of cotton acres in Georgia and a good portion of the acres in the Carolinas escaped with just little to minimal damage. Certainly there were some areas over along the coast in North Carolina that sustained a little bit more damage, and we'll talk about that in just a minute. But based on the latest crop progress report available to us, less than 50% of the bowls in those states were open when the storm arrived. So that was a huge benefit as opposed to what we saw last year when Hurricane Michael came barreling through right at harvest time.
Yeah.
But according to the report at this point, it said 36% of the bowls nationwide were reported open. Bowl set is essentially done. I think we were sitting at 97% when the report was issued. And cotton condition continued to show its usual week-to-week shifts and moved more to the positive side with this most recent report, with cotton rated good to excellent in 48% of the crop, and that's a 5% positive change in the past week. The shift came really out of the fair rating category, which set at 37%, and even cotton that fell into the poor, very poor category showed some improvement on the week, with only 15% of the crop rated with that rating. We're going to have obviously updated reports coming up this week, which will may give us a better impact or indication on Dorian's impact on crop condition. And the September supply-demand report will be coming, so they'll see what that has to do with the markets. Also, if you do have cotton that was in Dorian's path, let me urge you to check out some information from North Carolina State on how to manage your crop following a hurricane, and you'll be able to find that information on cottongrower.com.
Yeah, that's a good tip there, Jim. And like you say, maybe a situation where that late start that we had there in the southeast because of droughty conditions at planting time turned out to be a blessing in disguise. With you say you didn't have as many bowls open by the time the hurricane got there this year, so maybe a blessing, like I say. At any rate, going to be a big old crop, I think, at the end of this year. I mean, that's what the word was at that NCC mid-year meeting I went to a couple weeks ago. Even if conditions continued to deteriorate, it was going to be, and at that point things were a little too dry in a couple spots. It was going to be the third biggest crop on record, and it sounds like things did not deteriorate from that point. At least this is the very next crop or progress report was the one you just got done saying. Sure. So gonna be a big old crop, which I guess is a good thing for those of y'all.
We'll see what USDA says later this week.
Yeah.
With supply demand.
Yeah.
If they raise the production estimate.
Yeah. Hopefully they won't.
Yeah. That's right. Also, last week USDA's Farm Service Agency announced the beginning of the what they call the election and enrollment period for both the ARC and PLC programs for 2019 and 2020 crop years. Now, the 2018 Farm Bill requires producers to choose between the ARC county and PLC on a covered commodity by covered commodity basis, or an ARC individual for all crops on the farm. This applies for both 2019 and 2020 crop years. That decision has to be made by March 15th of next year. And producers also have to enroll their farm after making the program choice, and that deadline is also March 15th. Now, ARC and PLC enrollment for 2020 begins October 7th. And just as a reminder, any seed cotton base acres enrolled in either ARC or PLC are not eligible for the STAX crop insurance coverage on planted cotton acres beginning in 2020. Long intro to get to the meat of this, but as an industry service, the National Cotton Council is going to be conducting a series of webinars to help educate members and growers about these details regarding this Farm Bill implementation and the election process for ARC or PLC. They have 4 webinars scheduled. The first one is September 19th at 8 a.m., and all of these times are Central Daylight Savings Time. So September 19th at 8 a.m., September 23rd at 8 a.m., September 25th at 8 a.m., and September 26th at 10 a.m. Now, there will be some additional information released prior to these webinars, but other information about details can certainly be found online at the NCC website. And on a related note, just, the hot news announced today, Ag Secretary Sonny Perdue announced that producers affected by natural disasters in 2018 and 19, including Hurricane Dorian, can now apply for assistance through the Wildlife and Hurricane Indemnity Program Plus, or the WHIP Plus program, and sign up for this program begins September 11th. There is more than $3 billion available through the disaster relief package that was passed by Congress and signed by the President Trump in early June. And all the information about this, including eligibility requirements, can be found online at USDA's farmers.gov website.
That's good. Sometimes I feel like I should go in there and, like you were talking about those webinars a second ago, and I was like, should I explain to these folks what a webinar is? But if y'all are listening to a podcast, I suspect
I'm pretty sure they know what webinars are.
Yeah, you're probably a little more tech savvy than some others.
Absolutely. So. And we give you all the accolades.
Yeah, there you go.
For being tech savvy and participating, because it's certainly a way to allow you to get more involved and get more information quickly.
For sure.
We're going to shift gears just a little bit and look at defoliation timing, because we're starting to see reports come out from various universities and various parts of the industry about getting ready for defoliation. And I'm just going to kind of recap some of this. That basically, as all the extension folks will tell you, knowing when to defoliate is pretty much the key decision that you're facing this time of the year. And Mark Freeman out of the University of Georgia, he's a cooperative extension cotton agronomist, offered 3 recommendations for how to determine if a crop's ready to be defoliated. First of all is percentage of open bolls. As he says, when a crop has about 70% open bolls, it's safe to defoliate. If the crop is uniform without fruiting gaps, and that might be kind of hard to find in places this year, it is likely mature enough to go ahead and pull the trigger on it. You can also look at number of nodes above cracked bolls. And with this method, basically look for the highest cracked boll and then count the number of nodes up the plant to the uppermost harvestable boll. And if there are 4 or less nodes between the two, it's okay to go ahead and defoliate. And probably the safest method is the good old sharp knife. Pull bolls, cut representative bolls, open at a cross section, and check the seed to see if you have a fully developed dark seed coat and lint that strings out. Likewise, the 2019 edition of the Mid-South Cotton Defoliation Guide is now available online. This guide is compiled and updated annually by the Mid-South Cotton Specialist Working Group, which includes extension specialists from Auburn, Mississippi State, LSU, University of Arkansas, and University of Tennessee. And you should be able to find links to that guide on each of the state's extension websites. Couple follow-up items here. Number one, in our last podcast, we reported about some vandalism in coastal Texas. Some newly harvested cotton bales found slashed open in the field, resulting in an estimated $50,000 in damages for the farmers involved. We're happy to report that according to local news reports in the Corpus Christi area, 2 men were arrested in San Patricio County in conjunction with that vandalism. Both suspects were arrested in Taft, Texas by San Patricio County Sheriff's Department, and both are charged with felony criminal mischief. So hopefully that has put an end to that situation, and we don't see any other issues of vandalism or damage moving ahead from this point.
Yeah, shout out to the boys in blue there.
Absolutely.
Happy to hear about that one.
Absolutely. And finally, registration and housing reservations are going to begin September 17th for the 2020 Beltwide Cotton Conferences, and that meeting will be held January 8th through the 10th at the JW Marriott in Austin, Texas. This is the first time Austin has hosted this annual conference. The conference obviously is coordinated by the National Cotton Council, and it brings together university and USDA researchers, extension personnel and agents, consultants, and affiliated industry personnel each year to discuss and review new products and new production processing systems to help increase production and ginning efficiency. That registration info can be found on the Beltwide website, which is linked to the National Cotton Council's site. And that's it.
Very good. Yeah, I'll be in Austin next week. Looking forward to getting back out to Austin. Been a while since I've been there. Haven't been since I went and watched my Rebels play the Longhorns 4 years ago now. So this seems like a century ago, back when Ole Miss was really good.
But we're not talking college football.
No, we're not. I thought about that as I was we are trying not to talk about football, at least until the Volunteers or the Rebels really do anything noteworthy. So anyhow,
I think our season has already been set.
Yeah,
so.
might not be this year.
Might not be this year.
Yeah. So anyhow,
it's always next year.
Right. So we appreciate you, Jim. Appreciate that news update. We want to bring y'all now an interview that Jim actually conducted with Dr. Tyson Raper. He and Jim caught up at Extension Cotton meeting?
It was the annual UT Cotton Field Day in Jackson, Tennessee.
There you go. That thing they put on in Jackson, which is always a great event.
It is definitely a great event to be at.
Yeah, very well attended. It always makes me feel better about cotton because a lot of those guys turn up for that thing to talk about our crop. So anyhow, that was last week, and they talked about I believe cover crop timing, use of DD60s for cotton maturity. Anything else y'all did that's of note, Jim?
No, and just a quick note on the DD60. Tyson and a number of other specialists at other universities in the Cotton Belt are working in conjunction with Cotton Incorporated on a study to kind of examine and possibly reevaluate the way that the DD60s can be adjusted to help provide a clearer indication of cotton maturity, almost on a regional by regional basis. So it's a fascinating study, and Tyson does a great job of explaining what they're up to and where they're going with that. In addition to some input on looking at cover crop timing, considering the lateness of this year.
Very good. Very cool then. Okay, well, we'll just let Tyson explain it to y'all then. Bear with us. We'll bring you that interview right now.
Welcome to this edition's Market Minute. Instead of taking a look at the actual cotton market this week, we're going to take a look at some other factors that could impact the cotton production, and as we finish out this year, and certainly look forward to moving into 2020. And my guest today is Dr. Tyson Raper. He's Extension Cotton Specialist with the University of Tennessee. We're sitting here in Jackson, Tennessee at the West Tennessee Extension and Research Center following the UT Cotton Field Day. Tyson, it was a great day. Thanks for having us, and thanks for joining us.
Appreciate you being here, Jim.
Absolutely. One of the things I want to talk to you about, you've been a big proponent of cover crops and their fit and their use in cotton production. And we know that we've seen a greater amount of adoption of cover crops over the last couple of years as more and more studies have been put in place and showing the benefits and things like that. This year we had sort of a strange year. Obviously, as you know, in terms of planting, we had some that got in early. We had some crops that didn't get in late. We've had cotton at different stages of maturity in the same fields. We're not exactly sure what harvest is going to look like yet and how long that's going to take. How is this going to impact a grower's plans for getting his cover crops in? once this season is over with?
It can be a challenge establishing a cover crop in a season that it's a little bit challenging to get the cash crop out.
Right.
We had some issues last year. We've been conducting some research. When I say we, not myself personally, but University of Tennessee has been conducting some aerial seeding, like broadcast seeding studies. Mm-hmm. We do have some cover crop that gets aerial seeded. It's at times difficult to get an adequate stand with that aerial seeding. It's far better to get it drilled.
Sure.
But something is better than nothing, and we can see real benefits from even very, very inexpensive bin run wheat. Just having some biomass present over the winter months can really help, especially in West Tennessee, highly erodible ground. If we have some biomass there to hold that soil in place, move that water down instead of allowing it to run off the landscape, can see some real benefits.
Mm-hmm. Well, it also plays into the whole soil health, and which leads into the sustainability programs that the industry has going. What mixes of cover crops seem to work well?
It seems to be different. Every grower has a mix, and those mixes vary quite a bit by region. Mm-hmm. We have seen some issues with some of the brassica species. We don't typically use those in our mixes. If you lean heavy on a vetch or Austrian winter pea, that can cause some issues with binding row cleaners.
Sure.
But the vetch and winter pea, they're fixed nitrogen, right? They're going to be providing some real benefits. That seems to vary by region. It varies by producer. Some producers have a mixture that they found very successful, don't have any issues integrating into their system. What we try to recommend, Jim, is to start small. Start with mixtures that are fairly easy to terminate, that aren't going to impact your normal production system, or if they do impact it, only impact it slightly, and that'll allow us. We want to make sure that this integration, this when we start to look at cover crops, we want the first experience to be a positive one, not a negative one, and the benefits far outweigh the risks. But the risks tend to fall very early in the season, right there around establishment. If we can get that cotton crop up through that first 10 days, from there on we'll be able to reap the benefits of that cover crop.
Sure. Is there going to be a point where it might be too late for a grower to get a cover crop in?
Yeah, that changes, from year to year and location. When we start getting into November, it gets really challenging to get an adequate. We need to get some growth before it gets terribly cold.
Right.
Otherwise, it's going to be very difficult for that the cover crop, to take off in the spring. We want biomass. That's the key. In order to get biomass in the spring, we're going to have some type of a growing period in the fall, to where we can overwinter and then really take off in the spring.
Sure, and then when we get to the spring, you want to terminate that crop, about 2 weeks before planting?
Yeah, and that tends to change, again, by region and by producer. From our research, we can reduce risks if we have a crispy cover crop, terminated cover crop at planting. If that's 2 weeks or 3 weeks prior to plant, that's typically where we fall. That allows biomass to persist in the system without having the risks associated with planting green. Which not to say that it works for some, but it
can be done.
It is risky. It is risky.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. One of the things that I was interested in your presentations here at the field day today, you were mentioning a research study that you're currently involved in conjunction, I believe we said, with Cotton Incorporated, to take a look at the DD60s and possibly reevaluate the way those are used in cotton production. Can you kind of explain the background and why you're doing research on this? So
we first, as an industry, adopted the DD60 model in the early 80s, and a lot has changed since 1983 was one of the first publications that mentioned the growing degree day base 60.
Right.
Average yield across the U.S. cotton belt in 1983 was 506 pounds. And as you know, average yield last year was 864 pounds
right.
for the U.S. cotton belt. So cotton has changed quite a bit. Additionally, our technology has changed. Apple sold a 64 kilobyte computing power computer in 1983, and now the base model is from Apple is 2 million times has 2 million times the computing power. So, right, we've seen a tremendous change in germplasm. We've seen a real change in technology. Mm-hmm. We carry around computing power that doesn't even compare to what we had then, right? So the reason we settled on DD60s in 83 was it was an easy method that quantified temperature, which is one of the factors that drives maturity. Mm-hmm. But it's not the only factor.
Right.
And that's kind of why we're interested in just reassessing DD60s in this new germplasm. And beyond that, maybe looking at incorporating a few other factors: solar radiation, humidity. Maybe a heat unit in June isn't the same as a heat unit in October. And so there's a lot of different ways that we can tackle this heat unit and maturity and modeling cotton growth problem. Really excited to have Cotton Incorporated sponsoring this project, and it is not by any means something that I'm involved with alone. We have cotton specialists from across the entire cotton belt that are participating, and that's the value, right? Mm-hmm. So we have a tremendous amount of data. We've got people on the ground watching these. We're watching several varieties mature and hitting key growth stages, and that's going to give us the database that we need to create a very thorough investigation of our thresholds we've published to reach given growth stages, as well as potentially reevaluate the DD60 system altogether.
Sure. Is this something, once this study is done, are you looking at some sort of tool or some sort of program that a grower could pull up or connect into to sort of help him make the decisions on his farm?
Absolutely. One of the complaints that we've heard recently, in the past there have been a few websites that provide the DD60 calculations fairly easily. We're very hopeful to find a solution, maybe a one-stop shop, create a website to where a grower could go in, put their plant date and location, and then generate a DD60 curve for the growing season up to that point. Mm-hmm. That, I think, is absolutely going to be one deliverable out of this project. And we may see another deliverable will be more accurate, maybe not DD60 based, but a more accurate measure of environmental conditions to help us predict cotton growth stages.
Sounds great. Tyson, thank you. I appreciate your time, your advice. It's been a busy day. I know you've got other things to do. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for being here, and I appreciate you doing this companion.
Not at all. Thanks. We'll be right back with more of this episode of the Cotton Companion.
So, all right. Well, we want to give a big thank you to Tyson for always being so willing to accommodate us. That's Dr. Tyson Raper of UT Extension, University of Tennessee Extension. He's the cotton specialist here. No matter how often we lean on him, he is always so courteous and gracious and makes time for us. And, that's a reflection of how much of a friend to Tennessee farmers that guy is, and to anyone else who may could use his expertise. So, we thank you. Thank you, Dr. Raper. So, we're going to bring you a brief message from our gracious sponsor, Enlist, and then I'll be back to get you out of here.
A cotton field at harvest can be a beautiful sight. Besides evaluating yield, you may be scouting for weeds and considering weed management plans for next year. Let Phytogen Cottonseed with the Enlist trait help you control your toughest weeds. With Phytogen W3FE varieties, you can make Enlist herbicides the cornerstone of your weed control program. You can apply a burn down and pre-emergence treatments featuring residual herbicides, then take advantage of Enlist herbicides post-emergence. Enlist 1 is a straight goods 2,4-D choline that offers additional tank mix flexibility, including the ability to tank mix with glufosinate. Enlist Duo herbicide is a convenient blend of 2,4-D choline and glyphosate. Both feature near zero volatility and reduced drift potential to stay on target during and after application. Learn more at enlist.com.
All right, well, that'll just about do it for this installment of the Cotton Companion podcast. We want to thank Enlist for sponsoring us, and we want to thank you, dear listener, sincerely for joining us. If you like what you're hearing, by all means, tell your buddies about us. They can get to us in 3 easy ways. The first is go to cottongrower.com/companion. You'll go to a landing page that shows all 55 of our episodes now. Second way, subscribe to our channel on iTunes or wherever it is that you find your podcast these days. And the third way, the best way, sign up for our weekly e-newsletter, the Cotton Grower e-news. You can do that by going to www.cottongrower.com/subscribe. Re-up your magazine subscription while you're there. You'd be doing us a great favor. Also, make sure you're following us on social media. We are at Cotton Grower Mag on Twitter, and on Facebook you can find us by searching for Cotton Grower Magazine. We hope you're enjoying our latest issue, which should be the September issue, should be hitting your mailbox any day now, as today is about September 9, so that thing should be coming to you at any day. It's a great one. We hope you like it. This podcast is produced by Mr. Tyler Hatch, who works at the mothership, Meister Media Worldwide, in beautiful Willoughby, Ohio. My name is Beck Barnes, and I'm going to be back with you in 2 weeks for the next episode of the Cotton Companion. For now, on behalf of my own Cotton Companion, Jim Steadman, we wish you and your farm all the best.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Cotton Companion. Visit Enlist.com to learn more about the Enlist weed control system and to hear from farmers experiencing the technology.